What's up YouTube? Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be back working on the 2013 Fiat 500 Abarth that I bought from the local salvage auction a few months ago. And in my previous video you saw where I walked around and I talked about some of the repairs that needed to be made and some of the parts that needed to be ordered. And now that a period of time has passed and we finally got some of those parts, we can finally start working on this vehicle. And if we're lucky enough, maybe we can finally get this thing out on the road for a test drive. So it took a little bit of time and I cleaned this thing up some. And I got the front bumper cover sitting back up there, and as you can see, it doesn't really look that bad with the front bumper cover on there. But one of the reasons that I wanted to do this is that we can kind of see how far off our panels are in the front, and that'll kind of give us an idea of how much we need to pull out on it. So you can definitely see where the hood is back, and of course the headlights turned down, and the bumper's actually back a little bit. You can see how far back the radiator support is pushed. And if you can look right there, you can see the bolt holes don't really line up that well. That kind of gives us an idea of how far back this thing is. So now I do know it's back about an inch, inch and a half. And this kind of gauges of how much we need to pull out on it. So I've already done some pulling on the radiator support and the main bumper support, and I've got it straightened out a little bit. Now as you can see, it does look a little bit better here visually from the outside. And as you can see, I also have my passenger side headlight out. Now, I initially thought that I was going to be able to reuse that, but it turns out the housing was cracked, all the tabs are broke off, and it was jammed in there behind the radiator support. So we're going to have to order a new one of those, and I'll open the hood and I'll let you see where the top of that front bumper cover lines up now. So now you can see the holes in the bumper cover line up fairly decently, like they should, and I'm not 100% that this is exactly in the right area. It might need to come out a little bit more, but it's pretty close. We really won't know exactly how close we are until we get that hood replaced, because that hood is definitely tweaked up. It's to the left and it's up a little bit on both sides. I think the hinges are bent. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to buy new hinges or not, but I'm going to definitely have to straighten those out for sure. And now I'm going to take this front bumper cover off so you can see the crash bar behind here and see how I've got that pulled out. So with the front bumper cover back off, you can see where I've done some of my pulling. Now I've got that crash bar away from that AC condenser, and it's kind of helped push this right side back over to where it needs to be. Now the end of that frame horn there is actually bent. I'm going to have to take this bar section off, and we're going to have to straighten that out so the new replacement rebar will go on in the right spot. And you can see where I've done some pulling up here at the top. This is why our bumper cover holes line up a little bit better than what they did before. Now I need to continue to do some work right there. That's still out a little bit, but it's pretty close. And on this side, it's pretty close. Everything seems to be looking good. I've got my radiator and I got my AC condenser. Those are ready to go in, but I need to get these old ones out of the way so I can possibly do some more pulling and have a little bit more access to some of the areas that I need. So as you can see, we got the crash bar and AC condenser off, and we've taken the radiator fan off, and we got the radiator just kind of flopping here, and we're going to get ready to change that. But I went ahead and put my passenger side headlight in just to see how everything lines up. It seems like it lines up pretty good. The gaps look pretty good, but we still have a problem. If you look right up top here, that hole is probably off a good 1/4 of an inch. That's not going to line up, so that's basically telling me that this part of the radiator support, this whole piece needs to come forward about 1/4 of an inch. So this is still off in here, which does make sense because, like I stated, the frame horn here behind the radiator support, that is bent. This needs to come out about 1/4 of an inch. So I think once I pry this out and get this out 1/4 of an inch, it should help correct up here at the top. So as you can see, I got some stuff removed over here on the right side. I got our headlight back out. I got my windshield washer bottle out. I got the intercooler on the ground there. I've got this porta power in here, the spreader. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to push against the strut tower to the radiator support, and it'll get it back to where it needs to be. So after a little more tweaking, I got the front bumper cover back on, as you can see. And if you look at that gap right there between the hood and front bumper cover, it looks really good. Now, I'm going to have to wait until I get my new hood, new bumper cover on before I do the fine tuning to get it perfect. But for right now, I think it lines up pretty good. And now take a look at the bowl holes where the bumper cover goes. And as you can see, those holes are right in the middle, except for here on the end. I've got it kind of adjusted out so it'll match the hood. But I believe this radiator support is back where it needs to be. If you notice, we do have a little bit more room there. Before it was kind of pushed up against that turbo. These pieces right here above the headlight, as you can see, they've came down. They were kind of bent up. Now I've already got my crash bar underneath this front bumper cover. I already got it on there and it lines up pretty good, and I'll show you that. So here's the front bumper support, and as you can see, it's all bolted down and it looks nice and straight. There's no twist, no gaps. Everything seems to line up really good. Now we might have to do a little bit of adjustment here and there depending on how the front bumper cover fits. But our next step is, I think I'm gonna go ahead and tackle this radiator and get the new one in. So as you can see, we have all the bad parts off the car, and we've got all the brand new parts on. We got our new radiator in, we got our new AC condenser, we got our crash bar back on, we got our new headlight. I got this thing full of coolant. Now what I need to do is start this thing up, let it get up to operating temperature. That'll help bleed any of the air out of the system, and it'll also help me check for any kind of leaks that we might have. The one I did before, where I replaced the radiator on one of these Fiats, it leaked down there at the bottom. It's got a quick connection on it with an O-ring in it, and that O-ring leaked after I replaced the radiator. So you definitely want to make sure you check all this before you start putting the bumper cover back on. So I got this thing up to operating temperature, and it doesn't appear to be any kind of leaks anywhere. Looks nice and dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and throw this front bumper cover back on, and then we can take this thing for a test drive for the first time. So I got this thing pieced back together, and we can finally take it out on the road and see how it drives and performs. I'm really impressed with the acceleration. It has a really great kind of road feel to it. It basically feels like a street legal go-kart. I mean, you've got 160 horsepower, turbocharged, 1.4 liter engine, 170 foot-pounds of torque, and this thing has plenty of power for a car that's only 2,500 pounds, and it does have that stiffness that you get with a sports car suspension. That's to be expected with this being a sport model, but it handles really, really well. So with this car being involved in a collision, it doesn't seem to have any kind of issues, no issues like as far as pulling to the left or the right. It goes straight down the road. There's no steering wheel vibration. So I think all our suspension and all our wheels and tires are in good shape. So overall, I'm pretty impressed. I can see why there's a lot of good reviews about this car coming from some of the big car enthusiasts. I mean, this thing overall, it's just super fun to drive. With the radiator support back where it needs to be, the new parts installed, and the test drive complete, the next step is to address a few maintenance issues and to do the paint bodywork. But being right in the middle of winter and having a lot of unusually wet weather, these things are just going to have to wait for a later date. So until then, be sure to check out all my other projects, and if you're not subscribed to my channel, click the subscribe button, click the bell so you'll get the notifications, and you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram.